Any chance that I have to learn, any chance that I have to talk to my peers, to join industry conference to learn about new things, I think it's always interesting and fascinating. We can never stop learning. All of us, we have to be like sponges, especially with the speed and how things are changing. You need to constantly try to update yourself and brush up and maybe forget some old skills and learn new skills.
It certainly takes a great deal of growth to become a chief marketing officer. But our guest today says once a person earns this title, their educational journey is far from over. Welcome to Marketing Trends. I'm Jeremy Bergeron. Today we're pleased to welcome Milena Oliveira, the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for the Transportation and Electronics Business Group at 3M. Milena has worked for the multinational conglomerate 3M in a variety of roles for the past 22 years and has been serving in her current role since 2020. Tune in to hear Milena describe 3M's global marketing strategy, how its emphasis on R&D really affects her approach, and why she believes it's so important for marketing leaders to stay curious. And before we get into the podcast, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor for this show, Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. If you want to learn more, head over to salesforce.com/marketing. Today I'm here with Milena Oliveira, the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of 3M's Transportation and Electronics Business Group. For our audience, Milena, what would you describe the company and what you do there?
3M, it's a large multinational corporation. When we look at our businesses, and I would say something that is quite unique and interesting of 3M, that we are highly diversified. And when I talk about the diversity of the company, I talk about the diversity of geographies, the diversity of technologies, and everything we do. So 3M is really formed of 4 large business groups. We have the Transportation Electronics Business Group. We have the Safety and Industrial, the Healthcare Business Group, and Consumer Business Group. The diversity is also in the markets and segments customers we served. So we have solutions that we could be serving and helping doctors and in a hospital, all the way to helping, a mechanical that is, fixing a car, or a design engineer that is looking at new solutions to build a totally new design for a car. So we're all over. In addition to that, 3M, we have locations around the globe. This provides a possibility for employees to work everywhere and also to engage with customers, in all the areas of the globe. My role at 3M is the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer for the Transportation Electronics Business Group. So it's really to transform the way that we engage and, drive, positive experiences for our customers, and ultimately find ways to demonstrate the benefits of our solutions to our customers and help them to help their customers with their needs as well.
Okay. And now you've been at 3M for, I think, just over 22 years. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. That's amazing. I mean, in and of itself, occasionally I'll get to connect with a marketing leader. I can count on one hand in the probably past 100 episodes that I've hosted. I can count on one hand how many marketing leaders have stayed at the same organization and kind of rose through the ranks to actually lead marketing. So that tells me a lot about some of the things that may have happened along your path there. But congrats for being there over 2 decades. That's just amazing. And you've served in a variety of roles. I mean, marketing, strategy, business development, and supporting this business in different parts of the world. Tell us what do you love about 3M and what keeps you so excited about the work you're doing there? Because again, you've been there 22 years, you have a lot of perspective and experience, but what keeps you there?
As you were describing those things, you kind of hit on some of those points. So first of all, I joined because I feel like when you talk about 2 decades, that feels great, but not so much. Makes me, feel a little mature here. But I would say that I did join 3M actually while I was going to college in my second year of university. So I joined as a marketing intern, and from there, never left the company. But I remember when I joined the company, and my boss had 5 years with the company, and I said, there's no way that I'm going to be staying here for 5 years. And here I am, after 2 decades, as is described, and still, very excited to be part of this company. And I think part of the excitement is that 3M is so diversified that it doesn't feel like I'm only in one company. I have done so many roles covering different geographies, different markets, interacting with different type of customers that I always have new challenges. I always have new things that I'm learning. So that's what keeps me energized. Plus, the culture and the people makes a big difference. And I can say that I met some brilliant people, and I have amazing colleagues and people in my organization that I really kind of enjoy and makes works much more interesting to be working and collaborating with them.
You're from Brazil originally, right? That's where you were born, and then you've traveled. I know you mentioned a global citizen, which I love that, and especially being a marketing leader, having not been born in the U.S., born in Brazil, and then, of course, coming to the U.S. and then working all over the world, as you said you've done. That's just got to inform your perspective a lot. And I've had a couple marketing leaders like you who come from other parts of the world, and it's interesting to see how they think about marketing and how they think about their side of the business that they support. I'm curious about this R&D component being at the heart of 3M. I mean, research and development is a big piece of, I think, why 3M is been so successful as this multi-billion dollar, huge corporation. They've been really focused on R&D. And you talked about there kind of being this shifting in the last couple of years, shifting to some more traditional things and, shifting into new ways to maybe engage the customers coupled with traditional ways. And so I just want to hear about your perspective, being a marketing leader in a business where R&D is so important. And now maybe it sounds like there's some shifting where it's not that they're shifting away from R&D, but it seems like there might be some branching off from that focus now in the marketing world. I'd love to hear what it's like to have that at the center of the business, and then also how's that informing you now as a marketing leader, if anything's changed at all.
It's not, a shift. I don't think we're going to pivot to have marketing at the center and R&D. The key is how we can make all the sum of parts work together, right? So if R&D at heart, can marketing be kind of the brain and voice? Because if we develop the most amazing solutions, but we don't tell the story so our customers become aware, that's not going to help us be successful. In this new model, what we are doing to really make things work is that we developed a global approach where we are trying to really lead from a global perspective. But we created centers of expertise for each of the businesses because they're so unique. For example, I lead the marketing and sales center organizations, and we also have those organizations in the areas because although we have a global business, we know there's cultural differences and nuances that we need to understand. As an example, if you're going to launch a program here, it's going to be very different if you're going to try to do in China. Even the technology platforms, the vehicles that our customers are leveraging to consume information is different than US. So as we advance in this new model, we are taking all into consideration. And we are trying to strengthen even more the partnership, right? The partnership with R&D so we can help them with insights from our customers to really think about, what are the, new solutions that we need to develop, but also how we're going to be promoting those solutions in an effective way. And we're also strengthening partnership with sales because that marketing and sales partnership is something else that is really important. So how can we make sure, especially on the industrial side, where the sales organization is still a very, core piece to how we reach our customers, how can we ensure that we are talking and things are, flowing smoothly?
That's good. And that leads me to the next point of that, which is how are you aligning with R&D and how are you aligning with sales? Sales and marketing have been an age-old topic that we always talk about. And you're having, like you said, to partner closely with R&D, partner closely with sales. What's your approach there? What are some of the things you see work really well in 2022 when it comes to aligning with R&D, which is critical, and then aligning with sales?
The first thing is make sure that we have cross-functional teams, correct? If we work in silos, that doesn't longer is going to work. So as we're thinking how can we even have an impact on customer experience, it's super important to understand the different roles and perspectives because we can create a lot of things digitally, but we can have in our R&D or application engineers that they're going to have that contact with our customers, and that experience that we may have on the face-to-face or email is going to have impact if they also come to our website. So we're really trying to make sure that we build cross-functional teams, and as we're developing new products, as we're creating new solutions, or even kind of, continue to advance existing portfolios, really just talk to each other to understand how can we develop content that can help our customers be more self-sufficient, how can we, really help empower our customers with what they're looking for, and making sure that as we have those different touch points, we have them in a more consistent way. So it feels like a seamless experience for our customers, wherever they are and whatever touch points they want to leverage.
How are some of the ways that you get buy-in from other executive stakeholders? Because to me, you as the marketing leader this is a big part of 3M's business. I mean, the transportation electronics group is, as you said, one of the four. I mean, it accounts for almost 30% of their sales, so it's a big part of the business where you now as the modern day marketer have to align and build trust with a lot of stakeholders. I think if you rewind the clock several years back, the marketing leader may not have had to be so good at aligning with finance and operations and R&D and sales and the CEO, et cetera. Along the way, what have you noticed works really well for you in getting buy-in from other executives when you need it as the marketing leader?
I'm not going to lie, it takes time and patience to convince them. But I would say it has been wonderful to see the journey and how much we have advanced. I recall conversations with some of my peers that maybe they were more traditional in the way of thinking, and they would say, no, we don't need marketing. We have our sales organization. We're just going to be key account-driven approach and just face-to-face to where we are now and the conversations that we are having. So I would say what has worked is closely partner with them, understand what are the challenges, talk about the things that we can do to help, and start doing small pilots and small approach, and constantly kind of educate them about why marketing works and show examples. And here's what we have done for our business. Here, the results that we're seeing, that's working really well. Just understanding your stakeholder, working closely with them, understand what are the challenges that they're trying to address, and help by showing some of the things that you can do, and maybe just do small pilots and events and constantly show the successes. And if you educate people, they feel comfortable, correct? And then they feel that they understand what you're doing as well.
How would you describe the culture of the executive leadership team there? What is it like to collaborate with that group of folks?
I think, in general, folks are collaborative, but, there's some generations that are a little bit more traditional and others that are more open. So it just takes more time. But it's like any other company. It's important for you to understand the matrix and who you need to work together. So a lot of times, I would say something that could be faster, it takes more time because you might need to have different touch bases to bring everybody on board. It doesn't feel like a big surprise as you're advancing with new things, especially because you're doing things in the center on behalf of the businesses. But I would say in general, it's collaborative. And I would say the last few years, again, with everything that we had, internally and externally, with all the changes also that 3M has embraced, things are changing and people are just collaborating even more.
What are some of the things you've noticed or have done in this past, year to double down on customer experience and customer engagement? What are some of the things you have either done differently maybe in the last couple of years, or things you've noticed about customer engagement or customer experience from your side of the business? Any nuance, any changes or shifts there, especially in the last couple of years as the world has seemingly changed quite a bit?
One of the things that we did here for this business group, it's a lot of investment in insights, in understanding our customers, correct? Where are our customers at? What are their needs? Where do they go to consume information? So that's really, especially, with the shifts that we have in the pandemic, a lot of trying to get the voice of the data, do social listening, and leveraging data because we have a lot of data, a lot of analytics to really inform what's happening. That has been a big shift. So a lot of focus on data, a lot of focus on insights, and truly understanding what's happening and how we can drive an impact. So I would say that's a big shift on what we have before. It's not like we were not doing, but we were not doing sufficient. And because things change so rapidly nowadays, it's really important for us to stay on top of the changes and expectations for our customers. And then besides that, as a company, of course, we're investing in the, customer experience type of systems. We're using Medallia. We're leveraging NPS scores. So there's a lot of other things that we are doing to understand what's working and what we need to change as we continue to advance here.
Are you spending much time in the ABM world? And I notice you're in the B2B side of the business. And so a lot of times we're noticing conversations and strategies around ABM and kind of, initiatives around executive, level buyers in the B2B space. I would just love to hear your thoughts on ABM, things that have worked well, things you're noticing, things you can, or maybe you're experimenting on with ABM, but what has that been like for you?
We are scratching the surface with that. We have all the intentions, we have the plans, but you need to be, very smart with the type of content, dynamic content, personalization, customization. The beauty of 3M is that we are very diversified. The beast of 3M is that we are very diversified. So when you have so many products and technologies, to keep up with rich content, with a solid foundation everywhere, it can be a challenge. And when we're engaging with our customers, it's not only one or two product lines. We do have a solutions of technologies that can be offered to any given customer. So that becomes a little bit more of a challenge for us to be efficient in piloting ABM. So we're kind of, scratching the surface, starting to that. I'm talking specifically in the transportation electronics business group, but definitely is an area that we want to, continue to pursue and explore as we advance here.
Who are the persona of the buyer for your group? Who are these organizations? Is it a C-level executive that's making the decisions? Is it a certain type of business? Like, who are the buyers for your world?
It's many, depending on the market.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're talking consumer electronics or automotive, design engineers is a key persona buyer that we have. Quality engineers, material kind of type of engineers. We can have the buyer itself. If we talked about cleaning solutions, it could be the facility managers. So that's a little bit of a challenge for us because there's probably, even when we prioritize, just in this business group, 10 different market segments that are critical for us. And within those, you can have 3 to 4 key target personas. We spend a lot of time trying to invest in understanding those. What are the journeys? What is key for those personas? What do they value? What are the jobs to be done? And so on. But as an example, design engineer tend to be a key persona for a few markets for us.
But you said there's 10 different segments within that. I see how much content, like you said, like organizing all of that is really important. And then it's such a big audience of buyer, as you said. So as you look at like personalization at scale, is there technology you're liking out there that's supporting this effort? Because to me, we're seeing a lot around AI and personalization at scale. And I'm curious if you're going down that road at all, or if there's certain platforms that you're excited about when it comes to personalizing at scale? Because to me, you would need that as a global organization.
We are trying to first bring and have a solid foundation, both at our domains as well as our channel partners' domain, before we even go and explore more of that. But some of the pilots that we were looking with some partnerships with Salesforce, and of course that in-house we have MarTech stack that is broad, that is being used in multiple ways by the different divisions. We have, again, way more to do in that space.
Let's touch on what it's like to have this perspective about different cultures and regions and what it's like to market in so many different areas around the world. What's your approach to navigating these similarities and differences between different cultures and different locations?
That can be a challenge. And before, I would say that each of the areas or the regions, they used to operate a little bit more independently. And that was not very efficient because maybe there was duplication of efforts. And although there's cultural nuances, there's also similarities. So let's maybe go back to that example of a market and a persona. So let's talk about the automotive market and a design engineer. A design engineer, when they're looking into, new models of a car, improve, bonding of low surface energy materials, reduce weight, and so on, the challenges they're trying to tackle are the same, and the needs that they have is the same, independently if they're operating in Germany, in China, in France, or in Brazil. However, although the jobs to be done and the needs are similar, where they may go to consume information in Brazil versus China versus Germany versus US is going to be different. For us, it's really important for us to, again, get those insights. So what we are trying to do now at 3M is create global plans, but as we create global marketing plans, we really got to make sure that we have that voice of the customers, those customer insights, and really that engagement with the areas and regions. So we are not operating with a limited view. And then as we deploy global programs, we create the programs here, the assets and everything, and then we deploy to the areas where I also have specialized resources, for example, in Asia, in GCA, in Latin America, and so on. And those resources, they're going to do the localization, and then the localization, they may have to do some nuances. One thing that for sure we always have to do is translation, correct? Translation of those assets. But besides that, where they're going to activate, those programs, it would be different. So, for example, in China, we're probably going to do a lot of activation using WeChat. In Latin America, maybe we leverage WhatsApp and so on. Here in the US, maybe we're going to use more LinkedIn. So that's what we are trying to align. But there's a lot of the content and the assets that can be leveraged globally.
On the CMO Insights podcast that you did in July of 21, you mentioned that 3M was beginning to use virtual reality reality and also augmented reality, and that it was still in the early stages then at the time. Can you describe like where you are in this journey now a year later? Like what have you learned? What's happening with those interesting spaces of VR and AR?
We're still kind of, early stages, but we have advanced from last year. I think the key for us is really to meet customers when, where, and how they want, correct, to engage. We do try to leverage those immersive technologies like, augmented reality, as you said, or virtual reality, to really kind of show to our customers the power of our solutions. Where in the past we had to have that physical experience to demonstrate the benefit of our products, now we can leverage those types of technologies so our customers can visualize things in a very unique way. So maybe two examples that I can give you. One example, again, going back to the automotive market, we have an automotive showroom app that is still in beta phase, but think about an AVR visualizer, and that kind of can provide the customers an X-ray experience so they can see the hidden parts and product solutions in the automotive space. So that really helps them understand, the possibilities of things that they can do with our solutions to help them be more effective in the designs and the solutions they are creating. Another one, it's in the commercial solution space. We have another app that is really, helping, customers visualize materials without being space. So think about, surface that we can cover with different types of materials that could mimic wood, could mimic metal, or different types of substrates. Now with their, app, they can put that app, they can visualize in their space how that material would look like in a room, as an example, versus before we would have to have the physical sample. So those are just two quick examples that demonstrates how we are leveraging, that mix, reality kind of, technology to really demonstrate the power of solutions to our customers.
3M is such a huge competitor to the other massive brands around the world, right? General Electric, Emerson, Honeywell. There's some big brands that in some ways compete with 3M, and they're also massive and global in nature. How much time do you spend kind of looking at the competition and evaluating their approach, their global strategy, if you will? I know that 3M is moving so fast, there's so much velocity, but do you spend a lot of time looking at the General Electrics of the world, the Emersons of the world, to see their approach to the marketplace and see what things are happening there?
As we do, and that's part of the insights, correct? As we are creating plans for the next year and few years, we need to understand our competitive landscape. So we look broadly not only at the competitors, but also our peers, because sometimes, you can learn a lot from your peers that they're not necessarily competing with you and they could be more advanced. And also we look in different markets, looking at what other companies that are doing. For example, we all have a lot to learn with Amazon as an example. So we look broadly digital, how they're competing digitally, what are the things that they're doing in terms of solutions. And it's just, to help ourselves get educated about working and what is not necessarily to copy, but, what are other competitors or peers doing that is kind of, leading the way, or, what are we doing that is differentiating ourselves from the competition as well. So that's another element that is really important for marketers that we try to educate. You need to look externally, you need to talk to your customers, and you need to look at the data that you currently have available today.
How much experimenting do you do in the marketing side of things with so much investment in R&D, and you see a business that is so innovative and just a global leader in this space because they spend so much in R&D, and how much of that translates to the marketing side where like you have permission and resources and ability to do a lot of R&D and experimenting, if you will? Do you kind of pull from that thread since R&D is so important at 3M?
We are not at the same level of R&D, but now I see much more implementation and pilots. Even, for example, as we have now, we have each of the businesses, they have their marketers, but also we have technical marketers at the centers. Here where we are looking into what is our digital transformation plan? How are we going to advance? And as part of the digital transformation plan, we have some pilots that we are testing the waters to see what could potentially work for our business. But are we doing the same scale as R&D? No, not yet, but we are doing, which is important, correct? We are advancing that space.
I want you to just reflect on your last 20-something years at 3M. And I know that tells me you've done a lot there. You've had a bunch of different roles. You've seen a bunch of different things. You've grown and developed as an executive of the future. You know, to stay somewhere that long, you have to be relevant along the way. And so that you've done. You've had your hands on some interesting projects and led some people and developed some people. As you think back in your career, think of a time when you kind of faced a crucial moment, right? Where, there was something kind of a make or break moment for you. Maybe you were a leader, maybe you were an individual contributor. But was there a moment kind of in the last 22 years where it was a really big intersection for you? Maybe you were on leadership, maybe you weren't. But any story that you can think of, and would love to just kind of understand what happened and what you learned in that scenario.
There is a moment that comes to my mind and was maybe critically important because at the same time, I was having a very important personal moment. And at the time, I was being considered for a leadership role, and I would have to move overseas, and it was a big role. And I was also in early stages of a pregnancy. So that was a critical time for me because I was just concerned that I could potentially not be in that leadership role and take time, for maternity leave and spend time with my family and my baby just to the position level and responsibilities. So I was concerned, about 3M's perception and also how they would support my maternity leave if I would take that role. That was a critical challenge for me. The decision that I made, first of all, I had a lot of conversations at home with my husband, which is very supportive always. And I also had discussions with a great mentor. And after that, I decided that I would take the role and that, 3M would have to manage maternity leave for senior leaders if they wanted to see women continue to grow in leadership roles. And I also wanted to do that because I wanted to set the example for other, women that I'm sure that they have many questions about their career and if they can manage, the duo between, being a mom and, being a professional, which is a challenge that I see a lot of other women in the workplace, facing.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah. And it seems like that was a big moment. You're representing a lot of executive women in leadership who can be at that same scenario and making that decision to, choose the best path forward, but also consider this big life event that's happening. It's not always the easiest decision to okay, where should we go? How should we do this? And it's cool to hear that 3M also supported you along the way because it's clear they noticed something and invested in you in the past 22 years as well. So that's exciting. What are you learning right now? What are you kind of keying in on? There's so much velocity out there, so much speed in this market. You're serving a big space. You're making global impact. What are you kind of tuning into as a marketing leader and learning about and kind of, noodling on and investigating as a marketing leader that may be new now and maybe not so new in the past? Any new areas of learnings?
I want to, learn and advance more in the whole data science, data analytics space, because I think that's going to help us tremendously. And also in this mixed reality, now metaverse, I think there's other things that we can explore. And that's things that I personally wanted to learn more. I would say here at 3M now we're investing a lot in educating and providing learning access to our marketing community, which is very exciting. And then I think that is also an opportunity for me, right? So how can I learn from that? So any chance that I have to learn, any chance that I have to talk to my peers, to join industry conference to learn about new things, I think it's always interesting and fascinating, right? We can never stop, learning. I think all of us, we have to be like sponges, especially with the speed and how things are changing. You need to constantly try to update yourself and brush up and maybe, forget some old skills and learn new skills.
I love that you're staying at the middle of this really interesting space of metaverse and Web3. And literally right now in our other studio, our CEO is interviewing the CEO of Vayner3, which is a Web3 business that Gary Vaynerchuk has started on the side. And we've had a lot of conversations about mixed reality lately. And it's such an interesting space to be thinking about. Have you gone down the road a little bit and with utility of kind of the metaverse and 3M in your world? Are you thinking about what that could look like or having those conversations? If so, can you share any insight into what you're exploring in terms of the metaverse and 3M?
No, I would say the conversations just started here at 3M. We are not yet there. I've seen what other companies, are starting to do, which can be fascinating. But again, and what is, for me, it's I want to understand, but also try to find the right balance. because I've seen companies that maybe they're, going too much on the extreme side. And what is the right balance between that stay in that, gaming, that metaverse space versus staying in the real space? So I'm trying to find that balance. So for now, again, we are exploring more of the AR, VR, and trying to understand more above and beyond that and get into the metaverse space.
Well, in closing here, do you have any thoughts for other marketing leaders that are at the helm of global organizations like you? What would you share with other marketing leaders around how to be successful the rest of 2022, looking into 2023? What are some things that you think have really helped you as a visionary marketing leader at 3M that you can share with others?
I'd say, first of all, be close to your team. You can learn a lot from your team, and without, a group of people working together, you're not going to accomplish much at all. So I think that's the first. Second, be close to your customers. Ultimately, who pays the bill is our customers. So we get to understand what they need, what they're looking for, so we can advance in that experience and, meeting them where they are. The other thing is just don't be afraid of new challenge. Try new things, make sure that you test new waters, and then just continue to learn and be a sponge and be curious and ask questions. And that's where, we can leverage each other, correct? We can leverage our peers and, help each other. Maybe I don't need to talk to my competitor, but I could talk to some of, my peer CMOs and in other companies and peer companies and learn a lot from their experiences as well. So I think, having a healthy networking, support networking, it's very, very beneficial.
That's fantastic. Well, Milena, thank you so much for being on Marketing Trends. This was an incredible conversation. Again, congratulations on all your success at 3M, to your whole team there. Don't stop, keep going, and thanks for being on Marketing Trends.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure to be chatting here with you today.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more great marketing interviews with today's top industry leaders. And thank you to our partners at Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. Head over to salesforce.com/marketing.